Hey everyone, it's Alex, and today I'm here with the book acquiring tag. The original was created by Enter the Book. I will link her channel and original video down below. I wasn't tagged by anyone. I never am. I just kind of picked the tags that look interesting to me. I'm also not going to link anyone else's video in particular. I feel like I've seen 5 or 6 people do this, so I'm not really getting this one from an individual source. I apologize if you can hear my cats in the background. The small one is a demon, and she's having the time of her life apparently. As always with tags, my computer is in my lap / off to the side, so if I'm like looking down real weird, it's because that's where my computer is. I don't have anywhere I can put it up to like look behind the camera, and also my vision is garbage, so it really needs to be within like 6 inches for me to read it well. I did think this tag was really interesting. I buy a lot of books, I own a lot of books, y'all know this, so I like talking about buying books in addition to buying them. The first question is, do you plan your book purchases ahead or impulse buy? I'm getting to a point now where I'm trying to plan them ahead a little bit, like intentionally buying the things that I want instead of just buying things to buy things, but I do a lot of my shopping in thrift stores, so I don't have tons of control over like what the books are, you know? Like I can go to different thrift stores with like a list of books I want to buy, but realistically the chances of me finding any or many of those books is pretty slim. So it's kind of just like I buy what the options are, and then usually for books that I specifically want, I order them used online or purchase them new on occasion. But I have been trying to cut down on my book buying just a little bit this year, so I'm more into like creating a list and purchasing most of my books online and making sure that like the books I'm buying are ones that I actively want. Question 2 is, how do you decide what books to buy? And really just anything that seems interesting. Like I don't have any specific criteria. It's just like if I look at something and really want it, I buy it. I've also been trying to like buy fewer books that I can get at the library this year. Buy books that like I actively like either need or want to own. So that also fits into it, but it's usually just like if I look at a book and I really want to read it, then I buy it, you know, not necessarily immediately, but like eventually. I have like kind of a subliminal list in my head. Like I write down the books that I specifically need that the library doesn't have that I want to buy soon, but the rest of the books just like kind of stay in my head, circle around, and like 3 years down the line I'll see one in a thrift store and be like, I really desperately need that. I don't know why, I don't remember anything about it, but I remember desperately needing it. So I buy what I want. Question 3, what is your philosophy on where you shop? Online versus in person, large versus small, physical, digital, or audio, new versus used, etc. I prefer to buy used. That's just a price thing for me. I can't buy many books if I'm buying them new because new books are very expensive. Whereas the thrift stores I go to are usually like, they probably average like $1 a book, some less, some a little more, but I can go and buy like 20 books from a thrift store for less than the price of a new hardcover, which, you know, it's kind of just like me being realistic at this point, because if I was buying new books, it would be like 1 a month tops. And in terms of online versus in person, I do prefer in person. Again, I buy mostly used, so that's not like a huge option for me when I'm looking for something specific, because I can't like guarantee that anything is going to be in one of my thrift stores, but I prefer going and browsing in a thrift store to like going and browsing online every time. The only time I buy books online is when it's like for specific things I'm searching for. And then small versus large, I definitely prefer small. I try not to support big bookstores. I don't like Barnes & Noble. I used to work there, so not a fan. I don't go there at all. And then there aren't many other large options around me. So if I'm buying a new book in person, I'm going to an indie bookstore, which again, I don't do that much, but like if I'm ordering books for people and I want to get them new, I definitely get them from indie bookstores that are local. And then physical, digital, or audio. Always physical. I don't read many digital or audiobooks. Physical is like probably like 98% of what I read. I will occasionally get a digital ebook or an audiobook from the library when like that's my only option for a book. I would rather do that than purchase a book in most cases, or in some cases. But for adding something to my own collection, always physical. The only time it wouldn't be is if like that was literally my only option for getting a book, like there wasn't any physical options, there weren't any library options. Then I would probably buy a physical book or buy a digital book or an audiobook, but physical all the way. The only audiobook I've ever bought was Anthony Rapp's book. He was a star of the musical Rent, and he's done many other things, but the book is largely about like Rent and his life. And I bought that audiobook because I really wanted to listen to him do it. And like that seemed really worthwhile to me, and it was great. That's the only audiobook I've ever bought, and I don't think I've ever bought any ebooks. So always physical. Question 4, what about little free libraries? What do you think about them? Have you used one, and why or why not? I love little free libraries. If you watch my channel, my vlogs in particular, or my unhauls, you know that's where I take my books when I unhaul them. Like, I could try to sell them, but for the quality that most of them are in, the condition, I'd rather just take them to little free libraries. And I'm lucky to live in an area where I have options. I can find like a dozen or more probably, because I live near a city. So like, there are plenty of little free library options, and I really love going to them for dropping off books. Like, it's great that like pretty much all my books went up there, and like I've definitely gone to little free libraries and like filled them up with my unhauls and then still had books left over because I had too many. But for acquiring books, not so much. Like, I really like going, I really like looking at all the stuff and like seeing the books in them, but like I don't know if it's just the ones around me, the ones I happen to go to, they don't frequently have a lot of books that I'm interested in. When I pick up books from them, it's usually more as like a keepsake. Like, I pick up the most interesting sounding book that like I do want to read, but it's not something that I'm ever looking at like, oh yes, I desperately want this. This looks really amazing. This has been on my wish list or whatever for a while. I don't know. It's just the ones around me don't tend to have many good options for my taste, but I still like going to them and dropping books off. They're really fun, and they feel better to me than like taking my books to a thrift store or trying to sell them or whatever. Not that that's bad, but I just like sort of more contributing to the community in a more direct sense, if that makes sense. I don't know. I like it. It's fun. Question 5, how do you feel after acquiring a book? Do you share like in a book haul or a diary? Yes, I do book hauls. I like doing book hauls. I usually wait to do book hauls until I have like a decent stack of books, which can either be after one trip to a thrift store or it can be in several months. I'm currently in the phase of trying to do like not do a book haul for several months, and I have 3 books from the last like 2.5 months, which is really good for me. I do also have a TBR spreadsheet that you can check out down below. I'll link it. I pretty much always link it, and it has a list of every unread book that I own. So not like 100% of my book haul books go there, because sometimes I do buy books that I've already read if I want to add them to my collection, but most of the books I buy will go on that list pretty much as soon as I buy them. I try to keep that as updated as possible, but beyond that, not so much. Just the book hauls, just the TBR sheet. I don't like make a big thing about them usually. I have so many, and sometimes I buy so many at one time that it's hard to like celebrate each individual book. Question 6, how do you feel looking at your books that haven't been read? Does it matter if it's currently a lot or a little amount? Just speaking to my bookshelves, the vast majority of these haven't been read. And I'm pointing here, but I don't mean just this shelf. I mean like around, also at my parents' house where the rest of my books are that don't fit in my apartment. It's never been a little amount, let's put it that way. It's always been a lot. Currently I'm at like, let me check my TBR sheet because I have that pulled up. Oh wait, I'm not at the top. 632 books as of filming this today. It'll probably be slightly different by the time this video gets posted, but like I am at around 630 unread books that I own. It's never been a little amount, and I'm fine with that. I don't ever want it to be a little amount. To be perfectly honest, that makes me feel a little bit anxious. Like, I can't imagine looking at my books and only having like 20 unread books. Like, I just, like, that would make me anxious, and I feel like if I was ever in that situation, I would just go to like my favorite thrift store where you can buy like an entire box of books for $6 and buy like 40 of them just to like have more. I like to have options. I like to have like whatever I feel like reading at that point on my shelf. Like even if it's not what I'm usually into. Like last month in May, I read a book that made me feel like really sad and really negative. Like good book. It just like gave me that like very negative feeling in my soul, and I wanted to read something happy. So I looked on my bookshelves and I found this book that was like the fluffiest little YA contemporary romance set on Valentine's Day about a girl who's cynical about love and then falls in love. And like that is not something I would ordinarily pick up, but I really like still having those books on my shelves for those occasional moments when like I want something like that, you know? If I'm craving a thriller, I want to have options. I don't want to just have like half a dozen thrillers on my shelf. I want to have like options within like cop thrillers, like detective thrillers, or like psychological thrillers, or historical fiction thrillers. Like any genre, I want to have like all the subgenres represented too. So like I have lots of options for whatever I want at any given time. I like that. Like I'm trying to get my TBR down a little because like 630 is excessive for me. I don't need to have that many, but I'm not trying to get it down to like 20 books or something. I'm trying to get it down to like 400 or 500 maybe. I'd be cool with that. And then how do I feel looking at those books? I didn't answer that at all. I feel good. I like having options. I like looking at my shelf and just seeing all the potential in those books. Like it makes me happy. It's like I could love every single one of these. I love seeing like the potential there. Like I love looking at my shelves and seeing like books that I've read and like a collection of like various thoughts I have on books, and like just seeing like, oh, like I've read all of that. That looks great. But I also love looking at my shelves and like seeing everything to come. Like it makes me happy. Sometimes a little overwhelmed just when I realize like 630 is a lot. Like that's a lot. But I usually feel like really happy about it. Just like I don't know, it feels good. Like it just, I look at like all these books that like I haven't read and I'm just like, oh, look at that happiness to come. I like it. Question 7, how do you decide what number of unread books is the right amount? There is no number. The number that I have right now is the right amount. I don't know. I think like 400 is probably my goal for now. Like it's gonna take me a while to get there, and I don't care if I never get there, to be honest. I like having tons. If I'm at 400, fine. If I'm at 630, fine. If I'm at 800, fine. I like having books. It, to be honest, depends more on like the space that I have in like a literal sense, because part of the reason I'm trying to get it down now is because a lot of my books are still at my parents' house, and I would like to consolidate my collection and have everything like here. And that's not gonna happen when I still have like all of these unread books. So I'm trying to like get through them, like unhaul the ones I don't want, like get that number lower so I can have like everything I own. And beyond that, I really don't care. Question 8, do you have a TBR game or process for reading them? No, I don't. I've been trying to like come up with some things just to like theme, so I feel like I'm accomplishing more, because like it's hard looking at it. If I like get through 5 a month in terms of like things I read from my shelf minus like the books I acquire, it does wind up being like 5-ish or 6-ish every month, which is not like a bad number. That's perfectly fine. But when you're when you're taking that off of 630, dropping it by 5 every month doesn't feel like a big accomplishment. So if I give myself like smaller goals within that, it makes me feel a little better. I haven't like set anything up yet. This month I'm reading like books that I started and didn't finish, but I'm just trying to like, if I can break it into smaller goals just to like feel that accomplishment, I feel like that'd be like good for my mentality towards getting it down maybe. I don't know. I don't really do a whole lot in terms of TBRs usually. Question 9, do you have a book buying problem? And if so, what is the nature of it and can it be adjusted? My book buying problem stems from when I get sad or stressed or whatever negative emotion, I tend to not handle it very well, and I will just go to a thrift store and buy like $20 worth of books. Because it's like a cheap, easy way to make myself feel better. That's not very like damaging to anything. So it's just like something I do when I'm like feeling down to make myself feel better, and it works. Like, I'm not saying it solves life's big problems, but like it for things that don't need to be solved, just like, oh, today was a particularly stressful day at work, how can I make myself feel better? Let's go to the thrift store and buy 20 books. Like, I do that. And the only problem with that is that, especially during COVID, there were a lot of like negative feelings, and I wound up buying like a lot, like just going to thrift stores like every like 2 weeks and just like buying a massive stack of books. And realistically, I can't get through books that quickly. So like that's the only real problem that I have. I don't mind buying a lot, but sometimes I definitely notice that I'm buying books to buy books and not because I specifically want those books a lot. But I'm trying to like do better with that. Like, it's okay if I go to the thrift store and buy a book to make myself feel better. That's fine. It's okay if I go to the thrift store and see 3 books that I really desperately want. That's fine. I'm not trying to like specifically limit myself. I'm just trying to limit the buying excessive quantities of books to make myself feel better. So I've been trying to work on that and doing fine with it. Like, if I go to a thrift store and there are 20 books that I genuinely really want to own and buy, I'll buy them, and I don't feel bad about that at all. It's just, it does wind up a lot of the time I go and pick up books that look like okay, just because I want to buy books, because like I like the serotonin hit, you know, like it makes me feel good. I've been doing a lot better with that so far this year, I think. Question 10 is tag 2 or 3 others to ponder their book buying process. A lot of people have done this tag. This tag is several months old. So I don't know that I should really be tagging people, because like I don't know who did it several months ago, because I wasn't watching videos because I'm a flake. So I'm just gonna say, if this tag is interesting to you, go ahead and do it and say I tagged you. It's close enough. I like this tag. It's interesting. It's, I don't know. I like thinking about books and talking about books and buying books. So good tag. And then the 11th point, if Spleen would chill for just a second, I can finish this video. Thank you, Spleen. The 11th point is know you are awesome just as you are. Being a book lover is amazing. Thank you. I agree. It's lovely. This was a fun tag. I'll definitely link Enter the Books channel down below, her video for this. Check them out. Do this tag if you so wish. I think it's a fun, interesting tag. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all again soon.